Hi, I want to welcome you to our webinar, Improve Results with the Three Keys of Execution. I'm Kent Vaughn, the CEO and co-founder of Blaze Performance Solutions. Joining me is one of my partners, our COO, David Williams. Want to say hi, David?
Hey, everybody. Thank you for taking the time to watch this webinar, and we look forward to sharing our insights with you. So once again, thank you.
Thanks, David. We're so glad to have all of you with us today. David and I come out of manufacturing. We spent much of our lives as leaders in manufacturing plants, running multiple plants. For the last 20 years, we've been really, frankly, some of the practice leaders of execution globally. You might call us leading practitioners of execution even, working with hundreds of organizations, some with as many as tens of thousands of employees and locations in scores of countries around the world, all the way down to as small as NGK Metals with only 95 employees. In fact, we will end with a real world example, an example I like to call the parable of the red velvet cake. Unfortunately, it's going to make you want to go eat a piece, and if you're still in COVID environment, it's going to be hard, but a great story that Dave will share with us in one of the last plants that he led. Yes, for 20 years, we have been leading organizations in manufacturing all around the world, but let's go back to the beginning of the year. If you're like us, 2020 looked like an amazing year, and you had all kinds of ideas and plans to bridge the gap between your great goals and strategies to really get results and make this a bellwether year. And boom, what happened? COVID happened. You've changed, your people have changed, your clients have changed. Here's what we know, that you can't solve the post-COVID problems you're going to find in all of your plants with pre-COVID thinking and pre-COVID ideas. Yes, there are some things like Lean and Six Sigma, very helpful. David's a black belt in Six Sigma. I've been a lean leader for many, many years. But there's some other tools that you're going to need to help you deal with that change effectively. Whenever you think about change, it sounds scary. When you think about execution, it sounds scary. You've been great at it, but wow, there's going to be so much of it hitting us at the same time. That's why, thankfully, for the last several years, we've been refining and distilling and simplifying our execution process down, and it can be found in the book, The Three Keys of Execution, a book that Inc. magazine rated as one of the must-read books. And so we'd highly recommend that. But let's jump in to what we're going to cover today, because we're going to talk about some things that you can start using immediately with your employees and in your plants. We're going to call the key three, the three big ideas we're going to cover today. First, we're going to talk about engagement, how important that is. We all understand that. Number two, the three barriers to successful goal implementation, strategic change that we all face every single time, lift, guidance, and energy. And finally, we will talk about the three keys of execution. So let's just jump in. Let's dive in. You're all busy, a lot of things going on. Let's start talking about what we call the four pillars of engagement. These are there all of the time, whether you're aware of them or not. So we're going to have David start telling us about these pillars.
Yeah, so thank you, Kent. So there are four pillars of engagement. So the first pillar is that do I feel valued? And understanding that engagement is an output. So engagement is an output of everything that we've done up until this point. Are we doing the right things to help our team members feel engaged? And so number one, if we help them feel valued, that's one of the first steps in creating an engaged workforce. So when we talk about feeling valued, all we're saying is this, is number one, I'm recognized for the work that I'm doing. I'm recognized for the work that I've done. And then the second critical piece of feeling valued is that now that I'm recognized for the good work, I'm also asked for my opinion. Because if all we do is just recognize people for, hey, great job, great job, great job, but we don't ask them for their insights, we're not really fully tapping into this concept of helping employees feel valued within the organization. So the first pillar of engagement is number one, I feel valued. The second one is connected. Do I feel connected? And particularly when you think about the amount of people that went from working at work to working at home. The last statistic I saw, Kit and I saw, was probably, it's like 4% people worked at home prior to COVID. Well north of 35 to 40% of the people are now working at home because of COVID. So this second pillar of engagement is even more critical. Do I feel connected? Do I feel like I'm part of something? Do I feel like that I belong to a team? And so now that I feel valued, I need to feel connected. The third pillar of engagement, and this is what we believe is the most critical pillar of engagement, is the whole concept of contribution. Can I see that because I'm doing this today, can I see that it's having an impact on the organization? right? So because I do this, it's resulting in this for helping the organization achieve its goals. So the third pillar is contribution. We as organizations typically do not do a good job in this space, because unless employees can clearly understand, because I did A, these are the results that I'm getting because of what I've done, all they're going to do is feel like they're on a hamster wheel. So the third pillar of engagement is, do I see and understand my contribution? And then the fourth pillar of engagement is that, am I growing personally and am I growing professionally? And we're just not talking about somebody getting a formal degree, because a lot of organizations have tuition reimbursement. So people think, okay, I'm growing professionally, I'm getting a higher education. That's what we're talking about. We are talking about, do I feel that I'm growing personally? Has working at this organization made me be a better person because of how I'm treated and I'm learning? Is it also helping me to be able to become better at my job? Am I learning how to do my job better and unique in different ways than maybe what I thought about? So am I growing personally and professionally? So these are what we refer to as the four pillars of engagement. And the three keys of execution has been specifically designed to address these four pillars of engagement. So Kent, any insights, any other thing you want to add to this before we move on to the next slide?
Well, thanks, David. There are a couple things that come to my mind. Number one, David and I are boomers. It's obvious. You see at the pictures, we're baby boomers, right? None of the baby boomers, we're baby boomers. And baby boomers will stay in a job without all four of these. One of the other executives on our team is a millennial. He's an early millennial, 37 years old. But I'll tell you this, if you don't have one or two of these pillars of engagement, Brian will not stay. And millennials will not stay. They'll stay for a while, but they will not stay long term. You take one or two of these out, a boomer might stay for a while. But you know what? We're old. We've been out a long time. You talk to a millennial, you take one or two of these out, they're going to leave the first chance they get. And that's why these are all so important. It's not just whether they're important to you or to me, but are they important to everybody on our team? And the fact is, we've got to be attracting the very best talent we can get anywhere, anytime. So with that, let's jump into these three barriers to really implementing any change initiative, any goals, any strategies at all. We call them lift, guidance, and energy. And we think about lift. Lift is really, we tend to underestimate. We don't really understand the lift that's going to be required to get this goal, this project, this change initiative going. You know, we're just sitting there thinking, oh, this is going to be easy. This is going to be great. You know, I've already thought about, we've talked about with this leadership team. This is going to be so great. And then as we implement it and try to get it out to all of the people, knowing that, you know, it's not just an email, not just a couple of meetings, not just a couple of town halls. It's pretty soon people start to feel like this, like, oh my gosh, this is killing us. We're trying to do everything else, and we're trying to do, you know, you've seen this, you know, just even with preventive maintenance, how frustrated people get. Just when the mechanical engineers go out there and want to make some changes in the machines, right? So what we really need is, how do we get lift where we really get this thing up and out of the atmosphere, get it going and going well? Once, you know, NASA, go back, give my age away here, it took almost 3/4 of the fuel to get the rocket out of the Earth's atmosphere. They knew that once they hit the atmosphere, they start using gravity to spin it around. Then they use gravity to fly the rocket to the moon, then use the moon's gravity to send it back, right? So it takes a tremendous amount of energy to get it up and going. But even then, you still need some more energy or lift. Now, energy and guidance are so important. Guidance is the next one. Guidance is, you know, we're out here looking, we see the forest, we see the trees, and you think, wait a minute, that's not really what we're trying to get. You know, there's so many things going on the plant. What we're really trying to do, we undervalue the ongoing guidance people are going to need, because there's no way at the beginning of any change initiative, any goal, to know all of the guidance people are going to need. You don't at the outset have the knowledge of all things that are going to come up. And so we need to continue to give people guidance, a compass, as it were, to guide them so they get to the beach. We want them to get to the beach, wherever you're trying to get them to. What are you providing for them to give them ongoing guidance? We're going to talk some great ideas and tools in a few minutes to help you do that. So if we've got lift and people have got guidance, what about energy? Energy is one of those things where you're expending energy all the time. What are the things we're doing to re-energize people? We so often underestimate the energy that's going to be needed to keep this change initiative going. What you don't want is something that goes great for 30, 60, 90 days and then pretty soon dissipates.
Hmm.
As I said, David and I have been doing this for 20 years in just the execution space. In manufacturing, it's closer to 35 years, right? That we've been working in that space. And what we know is we have the t-shirts to show it of how many change initiatives we've been involved in that started great and quickly ran out of steam. And within 90 or 120 days, we're gone. You don't even know what happened to them. So how do we continue to create energy and give people energy to keep these change initiatives being successful? Dave, what would you add about lift guidance and energy?
Yeah, so just really focusing on the energy piece is that the more complex we make things, the greater the likelihood the energy is going to be drained from the organization. We've seen this happen over and over again, where organizations are identifying their goals, and their goals are way too long, way too complicated, and people begin to get lost in the mass of all the data that's coming their way. So when we talk about energy, and this is really the segue into three keys. When you talk about energy, you're talking about simplicity. You're talking about making sure things are done in such a way that people can understand it and they're able to be able to excel at it. The example that we like to talk about is transistors. Every light switch has a single transistor in it, but what's amazing is you take the transistor that's in that light switch and put it into a motherboard. You now have thousands of transistors in that motherboard, and you got a computer. And the reason it's so easy to do that is because transistors are very easy to stack. And then if you take billions of these transistors and stack them on top of each other, what you have is the internet, and so, we talk about stackability here. We talk about making it easy for people to be able to execute. Ken alluded to earlier about the parable of the red cake, and you're going to see it play out when we talk about that, is that simplicity is critical to keep the energy high and moving in the right direction, because you don't want people to get lost in all the data. So that's what I would say to the energy piece.
Absolutely. Thanks, David. You'll see how this all comes together so well. So those are the first two big ideas: engagement, lift guidance, and energy. Now let's move to this process that we've spent 20 years perfecting and written a critically acclaimed book on, the three keys of execution: simplicity, visibility, and accountability. So the wisdom begins with the definition of terms. So we define simplicity in this way. Dave, why don't you walk us through that?
Yeah, so it's about turning the goal into the game by adding a finish line. And so we believe that if you have 2 to 3 critical goals that you want the organization to achieve, then you really need to turn those goals into the game, because everybody loves to play in a game. And so we say, take the goal, turn it into the game, and turn it into a game by creating the finish line. Because if you just leave it open-ended and say, yeah, sometime in the next near future, this is what we hope to achieve, people will get lost because people don't like ambiguity. So when you do this approach, you're removing any ambiguity in what is the goal that we need to achieve. And so there are actually 3 critical pieces to turning the goal into the game by creating the finish line. The first one is basically, what is it we want to achieve? Everybody needs to be able to understand what is it we want to accomplish. The second one is why we need to do it. Too many times organizations pass up the opportunity to create a very clear and succinct message to all the team members, right? To where they can understand the why, because boy, if I understand the why we want to do this, it's game on. It's a game changer. And we leave so much at the table as leaders when we don't identify what the why is. And then the third piece where we really struggle as leaders with is the how. How are we going to achieve it? There are millions of ways, thousands of ways that you can increase the goal of increasing your revenue, right? You turn the goal into the game. We want to increase the revenue from here to here, and we want to do it by this day. So great. So how specifically, what's the most important thing you need to be able to do to increase revenue? And then what we find is that how piece is often lacking when it comes to goal setting within organizations. But the what, the why, and the how leads to what we call the what, the why, and the my. And so once we understand what, the why, and the how is, I now can focus on what is my piece. What am I going to do to be able to help the organization achieve its goal? And what's beautiful about this is that my choices are limited by the how, and that's giving me guidance on how I need to do things. So think lift, guidance, and energy. The how gives me the guidance that I need to make sure that I'm focusing on the right things to do. So that's why simplicity is so critical That's why it is the first key of execution. Is if it's not simple, the messaging will get lost and people just won't know what to do day in and day out. So Kent, what am I missing there?
I don't think you're missing anything, David, but it just occurs to me as I think about the hundreds and hundreds of organizations we've worked with, what we often see is we go in and there are a lot of goals. Number one, that they're working on. And number two, there are often goals that are things like that sound like this. We want to improve throughput. We want to improve quality. We want to improve on-time delivery. We want to decrease waste. Great. Okay. By how much? By when? Is it a big? Is it a little? And you go out, walk around the floor, manage by walking around. We've all been doing this for decades, right? And ask the average employee. And when you have a goal like improving on-time delivery, the average employee out on the floor goes, that's not my job. I mean, that's sales, that's shipping. That's not my job. Improve, decrease waste. Well, that's not really my job. I mean, that's if they ordered. And so too many goals and people not understand their part of it. If you have a lot of goals and people understand their piece, amen on your ability to get this done, right? So simplicity is so important. Without this, you don't have anything. And that's why in our training, we spend so much time with this. David and I have worked with so many different executive teams around the world, honestly, with large and small organizations, starting with what are the goals and why are the goals, right? And then what happens is from there, they try to identify the my for every employee. Oh, forget about that. You don't know. I don't even know. If you came up from the very bottom job on the shop floor to run the plant or multiple plants, you still can't tell every machine operator, every maintenance mechanic, everyone else what they should do about that goal. If you do, it's your goal, it's your ideas, and when they fail, they go, well, Kent's stupid. See, I told you he didn't know what he's doing. So we see all of these failure paths. So simplicity is such a big one. If you don't get this one right, forget about getting the rest of it. Now, the second key is equally important, visibility. And it's so important because it has the greatest impact on engagement because it addresses all 4 pillars. Now, let me give you one bad example, and then I'm going to throw it to David. One of our clients, huge international auto manufacturing company, you'd know their name, won't share it with you because a lot of times we can't share the names of these clients. And we walked in the first plant, and they had 30 different KPIs, they called Ocean Connery, at the front of every machine line. 30. And we looked just then and laughed at 30, really? Might as well be 1 million, right? 30, how are you going to get that done? And so they were very visible. Well, they were visible on so many things. By the way, every one of those KPIs were what happened. None of them were what is somebody doing right now on the shift about them. What's my ABC, my action, behavior, commitment about that on this shift? What would you add to that, David? And this second part of all this, let me just have you walk through that.
No, I think the visibility piece, and this is why we developed a tech tool that we're going to be going into in just a couple of minutes. In order to be able to create a culture of execution, you've got to have full 360 visibility from the top of the organization to the front line. Everybody needs to see what everybody's doing at any given moment in time. We are firm believers that if you don't have this visibility taking place, you don't have everybody involved in creating a culture of execution, then you're leaving so much on the table from a leadership perspective. So when we talk about visibility, everybody needs to say, the week begins, what are the things I'm going to get done this week that are in direct alignment with the goal? We call those the weekly commitments. And then now that I got my weekly commitments in that everybody can see, the second thing is what am I doing today? What are my actions, behaviors, and contributions? What am I doing today that's going to allow the organization to achieve its goal? Now, Ken alluded to this in the previous slide, and I want to just take 1 minute, less than 1 minute on this here. This point number 2. See, when you create a culture of execution, organizations determine the what, the why, and the how. The individual determines the my. And so the daily actions, behaviors, or contributions are things that I am choosing to do that are in direct alignment with the goal. Now, if you tell me those things, as Kent said, if you direct me on what I need to be doing, then you cannot hold me accountable for the results that I get, right? Because they're yours. And so this daily ABCs, these are things that I have chosen to do as an individual to help the organization achieve its goals. And everybody can see that. And then you as a leader get to transition from being a manager to being a leader / coach, because if you don't like my ABCs, then you have a conversation. Or if you don't understand, you have a conversation. But at the end of the day, I get to choose. And so now that everybody can see my daily ABCs, the third thing that happens is this concept of offering what we call digital high fives. You have an opportunity to provide instant feedback to somebody doing a good job. And so studies after studies have shown the closer that you can recognize somebody for the job that they have done. So you find out like an hour, 2 hours, hey, I did something, and you recognize me for doing the good work. As soon as you do that, the closer you can do it to me, actually doing the activity, the greater the likelihood that I'm going to continue to repeat and improve on that behavior. But if you tell me good job for something that I did a month ago, 2 weeks ago, a quarter ago, I may or may not, but the impact of you doing it so close to me actually, saying, hey, everybody, this is what I did today, the closer you can give me positive feedback, the greater the likelihood you're now going to be able to see behavior change in me. And then lastly, when we talk about visibility, it's all about the weekly commitments, the daily ABCs, and the offer and the high fives, and then being able to see it all in real time. If you can't see it in real time, particularly in the day and age, you're going to be leaving way too much on the table. The power of our digital compass, execution in your pocket, the power to be able to see things happen in real time. I mean, we have had client after client after client tell us, we knew it was going to be good, but boy, we really underestimated how powerful this tool really was. And what makes it powerful is the ability to see all this in real time. If you don't have a system that can provide information to you in real time, from everybody's weekly commitments to ABCs to what the goals are, then we would challenge you. You might not be creating a culture of execution. And this leads us to the third key being accountability. So when we talk about accountability, there's a lot of, you just say the word and people go like, oh, this is, no, this is going to be bad stuff. So, walk us through when we talk about accountability, walk us through what we mean about that in Blaze.
Well, it's interesting. If you say to somebody, we need to have an accountability conversation, what are they expecting, a positive or negative? It's never a positive. It's always a negative. My father
always a negative, yeah.
grew up in Missouri. My father was an engineer that worked in 20 manufacturing plants in my life growing up, probably. And he used to always say, son, based on past performances, that was never going to be a good accountability conversation, right? So what we're saying is positive accountability, where everyone gets to account daily for what they did on the goal. The power of that is incalculable. We have seen it again and again and again, where, literally we've had chief operation officers come to us emotional after a report out from their team members saying, I would never believe this. I cannot believe the change that's come over them. Why? Because people can see how they are making a difference and how their work is adding up and they're being recognized. You as an operations leader have no shortage of data around the end of the results at the end of the shift, the throughput on the equipment. You have that data's everywhere. What you have no idea around is what people are actually doing during the shift, the actual actions and behaviors they're doing to solve the problems, to make things happen. You don't know. You don't know it. Nobody knows it. All right. We've got tools to help you with it, but we're so busy worrying about the throughput numbers, the quality numbers, the waste numbers, everything else, that we forget that who is it that gets you those? Here's what happens. Remember all those transistors that David talked about? You have a bunch of those transistors out there working for you that are not engaged at all. They're not even on. They're just doing the bare minimum. And think about how many transistors does it take for a motherboard to stop working? Not many. How many transistors does it take for the internet to start working? Well, let's add that up across all the plants you're running that you have. Now you know why you have some pockets of excellence, perhaps, but a lot of pockets that aren't excellent, that it's really frightening. So this is why we've created a cloud-based mobile platform to facilitate both visibility and accountability. So you can see real time what's going on every day, not with the machines, but with the people that are running the machines.
Yeah, okay, that's awesome, man. Because I was thinking as you were talking, is that what we have found is regardless if somebody is baby boomer, Gen X, Gen Y, Gen Z, millennial, regardless of when they were born, they still love the positive feedback. They still love the positive accountability. right? And so this is what we're doing. We're, you know, we got to, there's enough programs out there that tell you how the machines are running. There's not very many, if any, programs at all that tell you how your people are doing and how they're feeling and how they're engaged.
You know, that's exactly right. I mean, let me tell you this. Here's what we know for a fact. This is not 1977 when I was a young private in the Army. And they said jump, and you asked how high on the way up. You know, when you started your career, maybe that worked. But I assure you it doesn't work now. We know it doesn't work now. And so we've got another way, a better way that we're so excited about. So let us take you through. By the way, the simplicity, visibility, and accountability, the keys, those three keys are essential to getting started on this process, this methodology. This tool for visibility and accountability that we call execution of progress, what we call it for quite a long time, where really think of it as the Blaze digital compass to guide you through the trees to get to the beach, right? Get to where you're trying to go. This can take it to the very next level because you can now see all the things that are going on in a much easier way. So let's jump in and talk to you about the tool. Excuse me. This is what we call the dashboard. By the way, we know this breaks every rule for good presentations, but you're probably looking at this on your laptop. But there are 9 little squares or rectangles, elements they're called. The top one's just the picture and the name. Then below that are 8 other elements that are so essential to letting you know what's going on in the organization. So let's talk quickly, not only about the elements, but how they help you with those lift, guidance, and energy issues and the 4 pillars of engagement, right? So how to help your lift and also impact being valued and connected. Well, first of all, it's easier to do because this tool is available on any web-enabled device. Phone, tablet, PC. It does not load onto the equipment. This will not create IT issues for you because nothing loads on the equipment. NASA uses this, and they don't have to load it on. They don't load on their equipment, right? We've had conversations with chief information officers and CTOs all over the country, all over the world. They're like, oh, it doesn't load the machine. It doesn't share personal data. It doesn't share data about the company. No. So it's really easy to get to. Yes, we know out on the plant floor that your individual employees are not going to be carrying a phone around, but there are ways that we found to make that work before and after the shift, also with area managers doing things. But the fact is, people get off the shift and the first thing they want to see is what happened, what else is going on. And that is so powerful.
Yeah, and I would say too, for everybody who's listening to know that we designed this tool with the idea that most people will be accessing it via their mobile devices. So it looks exceptionally well on the mobile device. So anyway, just want to throw that out there because we have designed it in such a way that it is extraordinarily user-friendly to use on a mobile device.
Yes, in fact, as you can see on the pictures on the right side, on the tablet and the phone, you see one element at a time. On the computer, you see all the elements, but on the phone or the tablet, you see one element at a time. Makes it so much easier to keep up with the elements. So let's talk about, if we've got lift off with this tool that you can access anywhere, anytime, any place. No one has to download an app to their phone or their machine. They can access it in the clouds, cloud-based, mobile-enabled. How does it impact guidance and help you with people seeing how they contribute and how they're growing? Well, there are multiple elements, but let's take you through that. This daily interaction and engagement happens. First of all, is the element that we call My Daily Actions. You'll see that it pops up. And specifically what we're asking every person to put in is, what action did you take today on this shift to execute your goals? There's a drop-down menu where it'll drop down the top 1, 2, or 3 goals you have, and they just type in, here's what I did. It takes literally seconds. For our clients that do it in the morning, they're doing it while the coffee's brewing, the bagel's cooking, right? For people that are on shift, going off shift, we have multiple companies that give people 5 or 10 minutes before they clock out to put their stuff in their web-enabled tool. They can put it on the computer or a tablet that's available on the plant, on a phone. Before they leave, they're still getting paid. Boom, they put in a minute or less, here 1 or 2 actions I took. Secondly, weekly commitments. As the week begins, the 410s begin, the 312s begin. People make some commitments about, here 2 or 3 areas I'm going to focus on the goals for the week. But you know, we don't want just week because, hey, you can't brush your teeth once a week, right? Got to brush your teeth every day. So we're really focused on make weekly commitments, but how did you implement daily? And finally, Coach's Corner, 3 times a week. You'll hear from David, myself, or another one of our partners, Brian Cox, who's our Chief Innovations Officer, about some coaching tips around simplicity, around visibility, around accountability, around leadership, around communications. And by the way, when we talk about leadership, we really talk about everybody's responsible for leading themselves. Don't be waiting on someone else to come tell you. Don't say, hey, it's their job. Baloney. You want this job. You need this job. So 3 times a week, a little coach's corners. Again, these are just a sentence or two or a paragraph or two to help keep each of your people kind of in the game with coaching from us. You certainly have your own coaching as well. That's guidance. What would you add about guidance? Anything else, David?
Yeah, so I have an idea, but I think we talk about it in the next slide. So if we don't address it, I'll bring it up then. But yeah, there's an idea that I want to make sure we bring out. So, but yeah, if you don't mind, I think we'll keep going.
Great, let's do it. So now we're talking about energy. Remember, we're talking about how, out of gas, trying to get liftoff here, trying to keep, energy, excitement going on, and energy makes all of the difference in the world. So with that, we create it using neuroscience. How do you engage the brain, not just the back, not just the hands? You can buy people's back, you can buy their hands, you do it every day, but engaging their brain and their heart when they walk in on Monday and say, hey, I had this idea about, oh my gosh, the more you can get that, you're going to change the world when you do that, right? So one of them is daily engagement happens with when I see my contribution score. I actually get a score, and you'll see there are 3 versions of this. There's my contribution that shows the points I've earned this week, the actions I've taken this week, the points I've earned, and then it shows my team scores and actions, and the overall organization score and action. This is so powerful to be able to see what everybody's doing. I'm not the only one doing this. I am not the lone wolf out in the desert by myself. It's amazing what people do when we're keeping score. Let's just be honest. When you're keeping score, does it make a difference when you're playing a game? Or even if you're on LinkedIn, how many people liked what you said on any other social media device? This is what we got here, social media device in many ways. Daily inspirational quote. The studies are legion that when people start their day with a positive idea or thought, guides them, helps them in many wonderful ways. And finally, once a week, we have a video from one of the authors of the book about execution. This one is one David did about simplicity and visibility, driving positive accountability. At the end of each one of these short videos, 4 to 5, 6 7 minutes long, we ask people, what will you do differently? How will you apply this? So we're continuing to coach them, continuing to give them reinforcement, education about how to execute more effectively, how to lead themselves more effectively. Really important pieces. What would you add to this, David?
Yeah, so good. Yeah, the thought that I was going to add, I'll share it here. So a lot of times you as leaders within your manufacturing operations, a lot of times you as leaders, you get called in the meetings. And then, I'm amazed when we talk with our clients, because the same thing happened to Kit and I when we were leading manufacturing, organizations. You get caught in the meetings left and right. And so you can go 2 or 3 days, maybe not really being engaged with what's going on in the plant because you've been called off to corporate to attend meetings. And we've had leader after leader after leader who said that I have been amazed at what happens when I'm not in the plant. And what this tool does, it provides me a way to provide positive feedback even when I'm not there. And it allows me to even be more engaged, truth be known, even when I might be in the plant sometimes. So this is what's so beautiful about this system, is that even if you're called away to meetings at the end of the day, beginning of the next day, you could actually be providing positive feedback to people that you may or may not have seen in 3, 4, 5 days just because you've been involved in meetings. And so that's the power of this digital compass. It allows you to provide guidance as a leader. It allows you to provide energy through the digital high fives and the positive feedback, right? So just want to make sure we bring that point out, because leader after leader has told us that they have been blown away with what they have seen, what they see taking place when they're not physically in the plant, and just what a motivator it is to them personally.
Absolutely. It's a way to digitally walk around, right? To digitally see not only the results, but what's going on. So let me show you one of the scoreboard views. This is a scoreboard where you see by team member their score. Now, this is just, by the way, a 7-day trial version of the system that we show clients. And I don't really have 3 times as many points as David. Most people on our team just sign online. They've got it saved on their tablet, PC, or phone as they show it to our clients. or prospective clients. But the idea is that at any time you can go to any team scoreboard and you can click on any individual and see what actions and behaviors they put in today, what actions they took, what points they earned, etc. Right there, you can give them a high five. Right there, you can make a positive, you make a comment. We'd always say make a positive comment on what they've done. By the way, here's what's really cool. Your high fives and comments show up to the whole team. Everyone sees the high five or the comment that you made. You can also see other scoreboards where you can see what time of day, what day of the week were the actions taken, how many were taken on each goal. It's amazing the data that system gives you to be able to see what's really happening. Quick example, a buddy of mine owns 42 Domino's stores, Domino's restaurants, right? And he said, you know, it's amazing what I can do with my phone because I've got all this data. I can just see what's going on. How long is it taking to make a pizza? How long is it, all these things. And so he can't be in all 42 locations at one time, ever. But he can see instantly all kinds of data that's out there available on his phone. And does that make a difference running his business? Absolutely. That makes a difference in running his business. So we've shared with you a lot of things that you can use to help you be more effective and more productive. Obviously, we'd love to have a conversation with you about your world, your life. What are you trying to accomplish? What are you trying to do? But with that, let's go to the parable about Miss Gladys in Tarbell, North Carolina, and the cake, the red velvet cake.
So thank you, Kent. The 3 keys of execution: simplicity, visibility, and accountability. When I was leading the manufacturing operation there in Tarbell, Miss Gladys came to me and she says, David, I just, you know, she's 72 plus years old. She had what they referred to back then as a club foot. She was bowed over from osteoarthritis, you know, and so she's like, I'm too old. You know, I can't do this execution stuff. I don't have any desire to do it. I said, Miss Gladys, why would you say that? She goes, I just don't think I can do it. I'm just, you know, I don't have the education that everybody has. I said, stop, Miss Gladys, let me ask you something. I said, you know, at least once a month you bring me in this awesome red velvet cake. I mean, we could raffle off her red velvet cakes every month and get a lot of money. I mean, they were the best red velvet cakes ever. So Miss Gladys, you make this cake. Tell me, how do you make this cake? And she went through the whole process, right? Make sure you buy this type of flour. Don't get this brand. Don't get the other brand. Make sure you use this type of vanilla flavoring. Make sure you buy this type of cocoa. Get this type of sugar. And she just went into great detail of everything that she would do to make this red velvet cake. I said, Miss Gladys, you're running execution. And I said, look, you know what the goal is? The goal is to make an outstanding red velvet cake, right? You know the what, the why, and the how. You know what you're going to do, right? And so the way you hold yourself, you know, accountable is making sure that you have the right ingredients, right, to make this red velvet cake. And then, of course, the visibility piece comes in. You know, got this great cake sitting in front of us. And so we just went through the whole process of making the red velvet cake and tying it back into execution. And Miss Gladys looked back to me and she says, David, you know, she goes, I can do this. I can do this. And she became one of the informal leaders within the plant because she was able to grasp the concept of execution. You know, very simple illustration of tying it back to something that she did with excellence and showing her, Miss Gladys, this is what you do every single time you make this outstanding red velvet cake. And so when we talk about execution, that's what we're talking about: simplicity, visibility, and accountability, talking about the goals, delivering the goals in such a way that people can understand it and they understand what they need to be doing, right? So just the whole SVA, simplicity plus visibility, drives accountability. And that's what Miss Gladys did with this phenomenal red velvet cake. So that's the story, Kent, behind the red velvet cake.
You know what's great about that story is not only did that Tarbell, North Carolina plant have such great results that they brought production back from China to that plant, but the change it had on the people, the engagement it had on the people. People didn't leave that plant for 50 cents an hour to go down the street to the GE plant because of what was happening there. And that, to me, is what's really magical about this. Not only do your results go up, but your engagement goes up. Your people are excited to come to work because they're being valued, they're connected, they're making a difference. It's a great story. So how do you make this happen? Well, we'll tell you this, that the 3 keys of execution is really extremely scalable because, one, the simplicity of the process, simplicity, visibility, accountability, And two, this digital compass execution in your pocket. That's a tool that can really help you drive it in some really wonderful and amazing ways. So listen, you've got a link you can click to have a conversation with us. We'll give you our email address in just a minute. But how do you make it happen? Really two different approaches. One is we can conduct all the training for you virtually or live and let Execution in Your Pocket do the reinforcement, that digital compass, or we can do a strategic work session with the executive team to really work on the goals, why the goals, how much by when, all those aspects of it, and then use the tool to roll it out to every single one else. We have in there built-in videos where we walk through every part of the process. We've got some great online training as well that's available. But every organization is a little different. So what we'd say is reach out to us. There are our email addresses. There's also a link you can click on to set up a call with us. We would love to have a conversation with you. You will find that we have a lot of fun doing this because, frankly, there's nothing in my office that somebody didn't make.
That's right.
And we know that the lifeblood of America, but the lifeblood of the world is somebody making it. Somebody's got to make it for us to be able to use it. So thank you so much for your time. Thanks for participating with us. Look forward to having a conversation. Anything you want to add, David?
No, it's been great having you watch us and click on the link and engage us. We will look forward to partnering with you in the not too distant future.
Hey, thanks. Have a fantastic day. We'll talk to you soon.
Bye, everybody.